Joe and Hampton, lights dim, it's game time. Interview sharp, cut through like a shank line.
All right, Stick Lounge.
Joe
We're on
Track, too.
Facebook.
I love that.
Nothing to do with
Good
it.
for you
At
guys.
Stick_Lounge. YouTube at Stick_Lounge_podcast. TikTok at Stick.Lounge.podcast. Email sticklounge@dat, creolesoul.com. You guys want to use the Stick Lounge podcast studio? Hit us up. We got everything set up. We'll set you up, create some content. You want to use the Stick Lounge itself? Hell yeah, you do. We got a full PA system set up for 4 mics. We've got 70-inch TV. We've got darts. We've got cards. We've got chess. We've got, I think we got Uno. We got everything, guys. Hit us up. You want to do private party karaoke? You want to watch a movie?
I just got a couple poker sets,
You want to
too.
have a birthday party?
Yeah.
That's what it's here for. Des Moines, Washington. Right off Marine View
cribbage
Drive.
and
Right
backgammon.
above Creole Soul.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. All right. Stick Lounge Podcast. What's going on, Hamp?
Oh, nothing much, man. Another week coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. Every time a new week come up, I get excited. So, but
It's going to take me a second. You know that, right? What's different about you? There's
I
something
tease my
different
hair
about
all
you.
day.
Oh, did you tease it? Is that what it is?
I got cold in the P&W.
You got cold?
It's not coming yet. I'm in the bathroom picking out my bush.
You know-
picking out my bush
So you spent the morning in the bathroom picking out your bush?
all day.
It looks great, man. It looks great.
Thank you.
I had no idea it could get so full.
Oh yeah, you just got to tease it right.
Tease it right. Okay. All right. Well, it looks good on you, man. It looks good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
So,
barely recognized you.
yeah, good.
So what's going on in Creole, man?
Well, Tuesday, January 22nd, we are doing the food truck. Catwoman and I, we're going to Harborview Hospital and set up out there for a couple hours.
All right.
We feed the staff out there for at least once a month, going into the summertime. So, and on 25th, we got Michael Powers.
Nice. Where's it?
Great guitarist here, local guy, just mean with a guitar, you know.
Yeah, he's a
just
good guitar
mean with a guitar, you know. So he's going to be at Creole Soul on the 25th, 26th, and the 27th.
Yeah, you got him jam packed up.
Yeah, doing Sunday brunch from 11 to 4. So if you don't catch him one of those nights, you can catch him on Sunday for sure.
Just go to all of them.
Just go to all of them. That's what I say.
Mm-hmm.
Just come to all of them and just sit down and relax and listen to some good music. So
There you go.
I think that's covered me for right now. Besides the 29th, I'll be out of commission. I'm going to have
Yeah, you are.
knee surgery. I'm going to get full knee replacement on the left knee. So
Yeah, and we got to figure out what we're going to do there because the lounge is upstairs. The podcast studio's upstairs, so
we have to might do it via satellite.
yeah, we might remote you in on the TV up there.
I ain't climbing the stairs. They say one flight of stairs a day, they say.
Yeah, and you live upstairs.
And I live upstairs, yeah. So, and
man.
my bedroom's upstairs. So.
Yeah, you're going to be sleeping in the parking lot.
I sure am. That little truck.
We get your air mattress for the back.
Exactly. That'll work. I'll sleep anywhere from the side. We put pallets on the floor.
As long as you got Star with you, you'd be fine.
Yeah, no, I wish somebody would try. Yeah.
Star's a 200-pound Rottweiler that he's got.
Oh my God.
And she loves fresh meat.
No one's breaking in here. No one's
No,
breaking in
nobody's
here.
breaking in here. I guarantee you. I'll put my life at stake. If they get out alive, I'll give them $100.
It's not like the most dangerous game. Pretty sure there was a movie about that.
My goodness.
And a book.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's about it. Back to you. What you got going on?
Last night we had a pretty good party at the Stick Lounge. We did a 80s themed birthday party. Pushed everything off to the side. We got rid of the whole lounge vibe and turned it into a big dance space. We added a bunch of LED lights.
I like that, what you did.
You like that?
Yeah,
Looks pretty good,
I
huh?
Leave it set up like that. Put a big ball in the middle.
It kind of changed the feel big time.
It does.
It was kind of funny. I walked up here. I'm like, man, this is a different place completely. And I like the lights that I added too. I mean, they're out of the way. You don't really notice them, but when you turn them on at night, the place turns into a dance club, man.
Yeah, with that bar pushed up against that wall, that looks like it was made to be there. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it fit pretty good. So yeah, everybody had a great time last night. It was funny because they all went out and had a big meal, right? And so they came here and they were tired and they were like, ugh, no dancing. So I was emceeing, man. I was trying to get everybody hyped up and got them moving. Everybody started having a good time. And then I was like, let's do some karaoke. No, I don't do karaoke. I don't sing. Everybody, I don't sing. So what I did is instead of turning karaoke on, I just had the music cranked up. I started handing out microphones. And then everybody was just singing, having a good time. You know, it's no pressure, right? No pressure. And a couple people were like, I've never sang karaoke in my life. This is like the most fun I've ever had. So that was cool. That was cool.
Yeah.
But no, that went well. Got a bunch of good feedback this morning. A couple people interested in using the place for some other parties. So, but right now, next thing that I've got on our radar is setting up another speakeasy night, and I think that's it. I don't have any parties lined up for the lounge right now. So hit us up. Hit us up. Rent the lounge. We're here. I do want to get 2 Bar in here though to do a tasting with their whiskey.
Love 2 Bar.
Yeah, we just had Nathan in here last week.
Awesome.
Just released an episode with him. Great
Lives
guy.
in Burien. Lives in Burien.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Great guy. So with that, we've got the mayor of Burien in the house today.
What a
How's it
segue.
going?
Yeah.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome. I mean, thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for coming out. I think
It's so cool you do this with your place and your place. It's so cool you got this combination going on.
Yeah. Just trying
Best
to stay busy.
combination lock in the business.
Just trying to stay busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen your signs around, Kevin Schilling. So what's going on? Are you? When is your term up for mayor?
Well, I'm the current mayor of Burien.
Okay.
And being mayor ends next year, but I'm on
Next year,
city
okay.
council till 2027.
Okay.
But I'm running for the legislature.
That's
so
what I was asking. So
that's
you're
why you see
currently
my
running
signs.
for the legislature.
That's right. And that's
Okay.
why you see my signs in Des Moines. That's why you see my signs all
Mm-hmm.
over the district, because the district is Burien, Normandy Park, Des Moines, SeaTac, and Kent.
I had written that down.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
you
was
got
doing-
your notes.
I was
You
doing
did-
a
you
little
did
bit.
your
I was doing a little bit. So it's the 33rd district,
It's
correct?
the 33rd district. I just don't like it when people say, "Oh, we're in District 33," or just random numbers. I like people to know
What it is.
that they're in a district with the other jurisdictions that are a part of it. So,
Right.
And people get confused when I knock on their door in Des Moines or Kent or SeaTac, and I say, "Hey, I'm the mayor of Burien, but I'm running for the legislature."
Right.
And it's something you gotta kind of articulate and explain, because
Oh, for sure.
people aren't really used, in this district, in this area, people aren't really used to having competitive elections
Sure.
for the legislature, because people get appointed and then nobody runs against them, and then they're appointed and then they don't have competition and they just stay there.
Right.
But I kind of made a determination that some of the successes we've had in Burien and some of the directions that the state's going, I think that there's something different to offer. And I also like it when there's competition. I think
Sure.
you shouldn't just be handed something on a silver platter.
No,
you need
I
to
agree.
work for it.
I
So
agree. And people should have options, right?
democracy only works if we have options.
Right.
Democracy fails when there's one guy, one gal, whoever, whatever,
That's it.
one person
Yep.
making all the decisions.
For sure.
That's bad.
Yeah, no, I agree. So how long have you been mayor of Burien?
Well, I've been on city council since 2019. I got elected in 2019.
Okay.
At the age of 25.
Okay.
And then
Congratulations.
thanks, or condolences. I'll take those. and then I was picked as mayor at the end of 2023.
Okay.
So I got reelected and then chosen by mayor, because the city of Burien is a council manager form of government.
Okay, and I was going to ask that. So the council actually then selects you.
Right. So we're like a board of directors.
Okay.
And the city manager and the staff are like a CEO.
Okay.
And then the team of the business. So the council's like a board of directors. That's how it operates in Normandy Park and Des Moines also, and SeaTac.
Yeah.
Kent's different. Kent elects their mayor.
So was that your goal when you got onto city council, or did it just end up happening?
No, it wasn't my goal at all. And in fact, I think it wasn't even my goal necessarily in life to want to run for city council or run for anything. I was trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I was going to say, was it like a passion for politics since you were younger, or?
I mean, not really. I've always been interested in politics from a citizen's perspective.
Sure.
I
Trying
never
to keep tabs and
Yeah, because like I'm not from a family. My dad worked at Boeing for 35 years.
I knew that.
You got that?
grandfather too, right?
My grandpa worked at Boeing for 35 years. So we're like one of those classic Boeing
Yeah.
suburban families. There's a bunch of them all over the place. And
Were they disappointed when you didn't go to work for Boeing?
oh my dad, the other day I did an interview that'll be out soon, where I said I don't even know how planes fly, and my dad was in the audience and he was like, oh my god,
So disappointed.
I failed. And I went to aviation high school, and so I don't even know, I couldn't even tell you how a plane flies. Not my shtick, but
Gotcha.
I've always been interested in, at least at minimum, kind of community affairs and like
Okay.
how communities operate, and I've always been interested in that. And when I was younger, a family friend of a friend told me that I should read the book about Lyndon Johnson by Robert Caro,
Okay.
the definitive biography of President Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah.
And I did, and I kind of got hooked from that. Like I was reading about what LBJ was doing, and how LBJ kind of maneuvered politics. And
I've got a buddy that he picks. He started with George Washington, and he picks. He's going down the line. I don't know what president he's on now, but he's trying to read the biography of every single or autobiography of every single president. That
that's cool.
And he said it's super interesting. So.
It is, it can be interesting, and we're on right now. 2 days ago or yesterday was the 250th anniversary of the beginning of the American Revolution.
Oh wow!
And so 250 years ago, April 19th, the shots at Lexington and Concord were fired and began the process of the American Revolution. So we're in year 250, the semi-quincentennial. Yeah. And so it'll go for another year because it'll go till the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And so it's exciting. Yeah.
So with this, with you running for the 33rd district, are you going against someone that's seated there? So you're.
Well, it's sort of an open seat.
It's an open seat now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the person who was the state House member became the state senator.
Okay.
And someone's been appointed to be the placeholder of the remainder of that term.
Okay.
So no one has been elected to the next phase, the next term.
Gotcha.
So this is the election to determine who is elected for the next term.
Okay.
So I don't know who else. I'm the only person who's announced so far. I'm the only person who's said I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Keep it like that.
Yeah. But I welcome competition. I'm joining it. My thing is, I think that a lot of Americans have gotten really, really put off by politics. I think right now
people are getting exhausted.
I think we're beyond exhausted.
The worst part of politics right now, I think people hate.
Totally.
Yeah.
We're hyperpolarized.
Yeah.
And, hyperpolarized. But I also think on the inverse side of it, normal people are more willing to call politicians out on like sloganeering and like not really responding to questions.
Right.
Like I'm willing to go on spaces and answer questions about stuff we've done or what I want to do. I think every politician needs to do that because people are losing trust in the process.
For sure.
If they've got any left.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? I think more people are getting more information about politicians. They're delving in a little bit more and they're learning more. Like when I was a kid, my parents didn't follow politics at all. You know what I mean? It was something that we didn't even talk about. And that way for most of the people that I knew. And now everyone's so involved and so opinionated. It's almost like, can we find somewhere in the middle where we're just kind of paying attention and doing what we got to do, but getting along with each other at the same time?
Yeah.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Well, and I think like just if we have different opinions, which I'm sure the three of us at this table do.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I want to smoke a cigar and have whiskey with you.
Right.
Like I don't want to say you're not my neighbor.
Right. Exactly.
We are so quick right now. And this has happened to me from folks in the Burien sphere. I still think of people as my neighbor, even if they're saying nasty stuff to me.
Sure.
Like I'm willing to have a coffee or a beer or whatever to talk about differences.
Yeah.
The problem becomes when you make everything in your life about those differences.
Yes, 100%.
We are residents of this. We are citizens and residents of this area.
Yep. And we're going to continue to live and work together, right?
No matter what.
No matter what. That's how it's going to be.
And so what? So what? I'm just going to say to you, I don't want to talk to you ever again because you might think something different of me. That doesn't bode well for anybody.
No, and I made a decision personally a long time ago. I would never let politics get between a friendship, my family. I don't care what someone else's view is compared to mine. They're still my friend. They're still my neighbor. They're still my family member. And it's unfortunate. I've talked to people that are like, oh, no, we don't go to Christmas dinner with them anymore because they voted this way. And I'm like, come on, man. And My personal thought is at the end of the day, all those guys are getting together and having whiskey and cigars in D.C. You know what I mean? They're like, hey, good race, man. Good race.
They are.
And we're down here pissed off at each other. So it's like, come on, guys. Come on.
They're doing that at the state legislature. They are, right?
Yeah.
Like we are hyperpolarized, but like you can still see on the floor of the state house and the state senate, when a Republican passes a bill, everybody goes up and says, good job. Congratulations. Like you can watch those videos of people being like, your bill got voted. That means the majority of this body of elected officials said, we agree with this bill.
Right.
When a Republican passes something, everyone goes up and high fives and shakes hands and says, congratulations. When a Democrat does it, everybody does it there too.
Right.
Like we gotta get past.
Well, there's got to be some kind of camaraderie. There has to be, or things won't work. You know what I mean? They won't work at all.
And then the problem becomes when things don't work, it begins this cycle of distrust.
Right.
And everybody starts and continues to distrust the process.
Yeah.
And distrusts government.
Right.
And so no one wants to be involved in that government. And then you get the select few people who are in there forever making all the decisions because no one's interested in it.
Yeah.
And I think light rail is a great example. Like Ezra Klein wrote a book called Abundance that I'm a big fan of. It's literally just like, we should be mad we don't have good, better, faster, cheaper stuff.
Sure.
Like, where's my light rail?
Right.
Like, I remember when
like as a country, we're the worst ones when it comes to that
we're
stuff.
horrible.
Yeah, we're horrible.
In December, I went to Japan. Japan has the best public transportation in the world.
Yeah.
Well, you've been to a lot of other countries.
Yeah,
I mean,
Japan, I can speak for them. They just zip around.
Isn't it awesome?
Yeah,
it's awesome.
it's great.
Europe's the same way. I've never been, but I've heard it's a lot easier. Public transportation, light rails, trains,
Right.
things like that. You can get around. And here we're just like, we'll tax you for it, and we're gonna figure it out in the meantime.
And I think the question, like, why can't we? I know that's that kind of line, like, why can't we have nice things? Or like this is why we can't.
This
have nice
is why
things.
we can't have nice things.
But like, we should
Usually
have
Ham's
it. I don't think so. Now with the hair, he's gonna be good. He's gonna be good. I truly think that is an excuse. We can have those things. We can have nice things. It's about holding the outcomes and the timelines accountable.
Yeah.
And saying, like, actually responding to the concerns and needs of the people, because light rail being delayed isn't helping anybody.
Right.
It's being delayed, and everyone starts distrusting government.
Yeah.
When you don't see people getting the help they need, or you don't see people, or you see increases in crime, or you don't feel safe, like, that's all stuff that you're then projecting to the government and saying you're not doing enough, or I feel like you're not helping out.
Yeah, that's exactly where it goes, right? It goes immediately to the government. I pay taxes. Why isn't this the way I want it to be? Right?
And you're paying more and more taxes.
More and more. More and more. Especially this year. It was rough, man.
Yeah.
Rough.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of dig into a little bit with what we're doing here currently right now. Do you think this being able to come on a podcast, kind of a long form conversation, is getting more popular? I mean, you saw Trump and Kamala both do it for their campaigns. Gavin Newsom now out of California has his own podcast. It seems to be getting pretty popular. What are your thoughts on that kind of stuff?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because here's my thing. I think for a long time, Democrats and liberals have been really afraid to go on long form shows, long form podcasts, long form TV shows, because but I should say, but you notice conservatives and Republicans don't.
Right.
Like, the podcasting realm kind of grew up and made the conservative movement.
Yeah.
Like, really kind of what it is. Like, people were going, like, all the politicians, all the political people were going on and doing 3-hour podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, they were on Joe Rogan for Donald Trump went on Joe Rogan for 3 hours. And a couple different other podcasts for 3 hours.
Yep.
And I think Democrats and liberals don't do that and haven't done it in the past. Former Vice President Kamala Harris did it a few times.
Yeah, she went on at least one, I believe, before the
Yeah,
election.
she went on one or two,
Yeah.
but certainly not as many as Donald Trump did.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of folks are listening to long form podcasts,
Yeah.
or they're watching long form interviews, or they're doing it when they're working out, or they're going on a walk and they're doing it,
Yeah, that's
because you actually get a sense of what someone thinks.
Right. Well, and you kind of get a separate idea of, it depends on who you're listening to, right? Everybody's got a skewed view of some sort,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's a little less skewed than mainstream media. You know, it's real people kind of getting out there and
Totally.
putting their own opinions. You still have to consider that it's their opinion for
Yep.
the most part, but I feel like it's less contrived.
Well, and you gotta be able to defend what you think,
Yeah, sure.
and you gotta be able to have a conversation with people who might not agree with you entirely.
Yeah.
And and like, I am willing to do those things. I'm willing to defend what I believe, but I'm also willing to engage in a conversation with people I don't agree with 100% of the time.
Sure.
Because maybe I'll think differently about something.
Right.
Maybe you'll think differently about something.
Definitely.
And I think that the going on, like, Gavin Newsom's podcast, he's trying to break into that. He's trying to show that.
I've only heard clips. I haven't listened to like.
Well, his are like 2 hours, or
Are they like 2
1.5 hours,
Okay.
2 hours, and he's doing that, and then like, Bill Maher's done a couple things throughout. He's got his 1 hour show, but he's starting a podcast too.
Mm-hmm.
It's slowly picking up for sort of the left side of things.
Right.
But yeah, it's been interesting that for some reason liberals and Democrats haven't been going on long form stuff. My thing is I just don't like doing the 30-second snippet thing.
Sure.
I don't like here's my video of me saying a few buzzwords and a few
And that's tough too, you know, because anybody can take and snip that.
Totally.
You know, I mean, this conversation right here, we're going to put it on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And there's a chance that somebody might find just that perfect second to snip something and click. You know what I mean? Like
Whatever,
they
but
do that all the
like,
time.
I don't care that. Like, because you know, you got to be a normal person.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you're always constantly worried about me saying one thing wrong or whatever,
Yeah.
like we're over it.
Yeah.
Like, do you believe what you believe, and are you trying to make a difference? Are you trying to do positive change in your community?
Right.
Awesome.
Yep.
Like, if you're someone who comes at something positively and wants to make positive change, I'm willing to talk to you.
Yep.
You know, and I'm also willing to be vulnerable. Like, that's the thing. Yeah, if
Yeah.
someo's afraid of like a 1 second thing,
The
like
1 second clip.
but
man.
I'm willing to be vulnerable
Yeah,
and humble a little bit, right?
No, I
like
think that's great.
I did a long form video that's going to come out in a couple weeks where I totally was humble. Like, I made a couple mistakes in that.
Sure.
I'm not going to clip it.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it up there and be like,
No,
there's
yeah.
my couple mistakes that I made.
You know,
that's-
everybody makes mistakes.
Who doesn't make mistakes? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Raise your hand if you don't make a mistake. That's all I gotta say.
Not me. Well, I mean, just the 2 podcasts ago that we did, Hamp and I are good friends, man. I mean, we're together in business, we're together on the podcast, we're friends. Like, we help each other out with whatever we need. My daughters work for him. We had a tattoo artist in here, and I was asking her if it was harder to tattoo melanated skin.
Uh-huh.
And then I was joking because Hamp's got this tattoo. It's old. You can't see it. It's really old. So I said, "Can you see Hampton's tattoo?" And we were kind of joking. He was laughing. Of course, somebody went on there and said that I was being racist.
Oh.
I'm like, boy, I made it. I mean, I'm a TikTok racist.
Yeah.
That was fast. You know,
You
it's
need
just
an
like,
LED light to see it. You know?
it's just
I
like,
see it right there.
it's just like people are so quick to jump to the negative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When we're just having a good time up here.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the point. We are positive people. We want to bring positive people into our space and into our life. We want you to do well. We want our businesses to do well. I really believe in the power of positive thinking and, you know, paying it forward. You know, I tip well when I go places. I help when I can, because I think that that's the kind of thing that you need to do if you want to receive that back.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and it's just a shame that some people don't think that way.
Well, and you know what? There's also just the like, you've gotta be able to tune out a lot of the criticism.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you're doing this, like, this is awesome. I think
Thank
it's
you.
great that you guys are doing this.
Appreciate it.
Like, you know, I would. That's why I'm on here, because I think it's
No,
great that you
hit
guys
us
are
up,
doing
man.
this.
I'm like, hey, Amp, the mayor of Burien wants to come on the podcast.
Sign him up.
and I think it's awesome. And you're building the community, and you're ingratiating yourself in the community, and you're saying we want to be a part of this. That's cool.
Yeah.
Don't, you know, like.
Oh no, it doesn't bother me.
No, I know it doesn't. I know it doesn't bother you, but it certainly is like, bring that person on the podcast.
Right.
Like, you
No,
know,
totally.
like-
I would. I mean, who knows where they are, who they are. But
Yeah, right.
If you're out there, you want to be on the podcast,
Hit us up. Oh, wait.
hit us up.
We're not scared. We're not scared.
No, I'm not scared.
No, we say it all the time, though. It's like we're willing to talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We're both very like easygoing guys. You know, I like I said, I will take no position that's gonna exclude me from friends or family or any opportunities. Like, everybody's an asshole sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're right and sometimes you're wrong. And you know what? You got to admit when you're wrong, and you got to learn from those, you know, experiences. And it's life.
And
It's
here's the
life.
thing, like the ideological purity test.
Mhm.
Do you think everything I think?
Right.
And if you don't, I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
Or
That's
if you don't, you can't be in the club.
right.
And like
Right.
that's so exclusionary
Mhm.
and so uninteresting.
Yeah.
You want to be a part of a club where everyone thinks the same thing?
Oh my
Right.
God.
Oh, horrible.
Yeah. This is being stuck in an echo chamber.
You're
right?
just in an echo chamber the whole
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
And when you go knock on doors, like I've knocked on thousands of doors, like I both in my previous campaigns and in this one too.
Mhm.
And I guarantee you something: people who are not politicians
Mhm.
do not care
Right.
if you agree with them or not.
Right.
They're going to express themselves. They're going to tell you. They're going to tell you what they think.
I'm gonna tell you what's on their mind.
Oh boy, and I have heard it.
I'm sure.
I
I'm
have
sure.
heard it, and it's great, and I love hearing it.
Yeah.
Because then I get to reflect on what I've heard
Mhm.
from regular normal people.
Right.
And I think, you know, that's the benefit of campaigning. That's the benefit of competition. That's the benefit of having people actually have to go door to door and show up to events and do podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, because if you don't, then you're basically saying, I don't want to be challenged, or I don't want
Right.
to, have my views challenged.
Don't want to have your views challenged. Don't want to learn. Don't want to expand. I mean, or just hear what the people have to say. You know what I mean? Door to door is tough, man. I mean, I didn't even know they still did. Do they still do door to door?
Not everybody does. I do though.
Do you really?
Oh yeah.
That's old school, right?
That
there.
is old school.
Oh yeah. The other day, you know,
You get the Ring doorbell answer
all
like,
the time.
what do you want?
All the time. The problem is more and more lately, it's a lot of no soliciting or don't knock on my door. Like I'm not interested, which is fine. And I honor that. But it's getting tough because there's so many more people who are putting up no soliciting signs and don't come knock on my. And I know that like not campaigning is not soliciting, but that person doesn't know that. That sign could just say, I don't want to talk to you.
Pretty much.
Right?
Pretty much what it says.
Yeah, and that's what it says.
Yeah.
And, you know, but doing the old school door to door stuff can get a little lonely. Like the other day, I
sure.
said to my dad, I was like, "Can you just like come walk on the street,
just hang out with me
just
for a
be
little
there
bit?
and hang out?" Like this is tough, you know. Yeah.
Do you get positive feedback for that? Do some people be like, are they excited to see you running around out there and doing it the old school
Oh
way?
yeah.
Or-
Oh
okay,
yeah.
that's
I get
great.
a lot of people who say like, "I'm voting for you just because you knocked on my door."
Just because you're getting up and doing something.
Yeah.
Now, do y'all do rallies on here?
Rallies?
Yeah.
No, there's no way people would just show up for rallies.
That's old school right
Like,
there.
you just want to take the food truck. That's what,
No, 'cause growing up, when they had people running for office or something like that, they have a rally,
right.
and then after that, they have some white bean and jambalaya, and they discuss it.
that was totally back. That was before social media,
Yeah,
and, like,
sure was.
and you know, like people don't really the interest in legislative politics is also a little niche, and like not a lot of people are connected to what's going on in the legislature and that sort of thing. But like, oh man, back in the day, Louisiana.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Politicians,
Oh,
like,
yeah, for sure.
old school.
Back when that bush was real.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, shit. That's a real bush. I'm sorry. That's a real bush.
That was like Huey Long time. The
Yeah,
Long
exactly.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every man a king.
Every man a king, that's for sure.
So would you like to see something like that again? Does that the idea of kind of politics going back to that excite you at all?
Well,
or-
for sure. And like, think about like bring it back to the kind of founding of the country. You know what they did? They literally bought out taverns and paid for guys to have glasses of beer.
Yep.
And went to go shake hands with them by buying out taverns. Like,
Probably a better way to get to know everybody. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Get to
yeah.
know the guy that's running, get to know your constituents and everything else.
Right,
And just
right.
be on social media.
that of course was back in a time when the franchise to vote was limited to white men who owned property. So it wasn't that difficult to get like everybody into the tavern.
Right.
But you know, as time went on and the voting, the franchise expanded and kept expanding, it got a little harder. There's so many more people now that can vote. And nowadays, you know, it's almost impossible. Everyone can vote. We mail ballots to everybody, so everyone's able to vote, which is amazing.
And they're on it too, because the second my daughter turned 18, she got a ballot.
And they should,
I
right?
was like, damn, they didn't even miss a beat.
Everybody needs to vote. Everybody needs to vote. It's harder to get people to show up to stuff.
So let me ask you this.
That's funny you say that.
Oh, go ahead.
Because that's how we used to drive around and pick people up and take them to the poll.
Oh yeah. I
vote,
remember that.
you know,
I mean,
yeah.
I was young, but I remember people doing
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And then you know what? There's been a big push nowadays. Like I've heard some podcasts. You know, hey, go pick up your family, go pick up your friends, take them down there. If you don't do it, they're not going to get their asses up and do it themselves. You know, so I think some of that's kind of coming back. At least this last election. You know, of course.
Well, you know, but it's also like politicians have got to show up where people are at.
Yeah.
It's less about like doing something and expecting people to show up for it, and it's more like you got to start showing up where people are at.
Yeah.
So like, here's a great example. I just went to Coachella for the first time ever.
Did you really?
It was awesome.
Really?
It was awesome.
That's wild. You're brave, man. I'm not going to Coachella. Hell no.
I've never been. I've
Big
never
sissy.
been. It was 100 degrees.
Yeah.
I was like, it was not something that's been on my radar, but I
Right.
went. It was amazing. I'm so
Okay,
glad I went.
cool.
It was a super cool experience.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm laying in the
Doing
grass.
Burning Man next?
No. I know people who do Burning Man. No. can't
I've
do it.
talked to a few people that have done it. They say it's blast. But I've never done it. My
uh,
uncle went to Burning Man. I was like, what?
That's too much for me. That's too much.
Yeah.
But I'm laying in the grass. I'm laying in the grass taking a break because it was 100 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
And I sort of thought, why aren't there more politicians at Coachella?
Sure.
There's 100,000 people there, maybe more.
Mhm.
Where are the where are the people trying to like understand what younger people are looking for and stuff like that?
Yeah.
But
good
then
point.
out of my ear, I hear someone go, "Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Bernie Sanders."
Oh, Bernie Sanders?
And
was
Bernie
there?
showed up.
No kidding.
And
wow.
and And in that
Wow,
moment, I
that's
thought,
impressive.
oh my, good on you, Bernie. Good on you.
My daughter loves Bernie Sanders.
I know.
Huge Bernie Sanders fan.
Double Catwoman,
because
right?
Bernie is showing up where people are.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Bernie's showing up where people are.
Yeah.
And Bernie's talking about the kind of things that get the left excited.
Yeah.
And
Get young people excited.
get young people
Yeah.
excited, all that. Like, but the fact that he was the only one that showed up to Coachella
Yeah.
is, I think, first of all, I built a lot more respect for him because
Do you think that's him or his team?
I think it's a mix. I think he
it's a
listens
mix.
to his team. I think his team is probably like, hey, you know what would be really awesome? You should go
Yeah.
to Coachella.
He's like, let's do it.
And he's like, yeah, I'll go to Coachella.
That's
Like,
cool.
I think he'll go wherever. Like they were just in Idaho and they packed a stadium of like 19,000 people
Yeah.
in Idaho.
Right. Right. Which is Idaho.
Tough.
Right?
That's tough.
So
That is
like
tough.
he's showing up where people are at.
Yeah.
He did a rally, but like he's national. You know?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not gonna pack 19,000.
Sure.
people.
Sure.
You don't know. After this podcast,
Yeah,
you
there we
like,
go. This podcast is
There
gonna
we go.
take it off.
It's gonna help you. It's gonna help us. We're gonna blow up.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess the full circle for that there is like Bernie showing up. I got respect for him, more respect for him, and was just like, show up where people are at.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
And he went to the place where literally
Mhm.
everyone's under the age of 40.
That's wild. I didn't
You
know
know.
that. Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think about, we were saying earlier, everyone needs to vote. And I totally agree with that. But what do you think about people that don't educate themselves before they vote? Because I've always told my kids, look, it's important to vote. And I'm not a huge political guy. I'm not. I mean, I follow enough I think voting local is important. Before I vote, I will do a dive on every candidate and I'll read what their views are because not everybody. The one thing I did show my kids the last presidential election because they're like, so it's Trump or Kamala. And I'm like, no, it's not. So I got the pamphlet out and I'm like, look, here's all the people that are running for president. And they're like, what? I didn't know all these other people were running. I'm like, I know. That's why you have to educate yourself. You have to read. I mean, people say it's a wasted vote if you don't vote right or you don't vote left. I don't care. I'm going to vote where I want to vote. But you have to educate yourself, in my opinion. So is there an area where you would say, like, if you're not educating yourself, maybe don't vote?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, we got to get back to having civics taught.
Yeah, that's true.
Like
true.
civics isn't a mandatory class anymore in public
Oh,
education.
they took it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not have mandatory civics when I went to my public high school.
Well, I mean, my daughter's a junior in high school, and when I was showing her stuff when I was voting this year, she had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah. I'm almost at the point where I'm like, we should have a required refresher civics course when your license expires.
Yeah. No,
And
I
you
don't
gotta go get
I don't disagree.
you gotta go get your license renewed.
Yeah.
Time for a renewed civics course.
I don't
Get
disagree.
report cards.
Like-
Like,
you can't get your license renewed unless you pass the test that immigrants have to pass when they take
Yeah, no
the
shit.
naturalization test.
Yeah.
Like you give that test to a naturalized citizen, someone born here.
Oh, yeah, no. I'd fail.
I don't know if you'd fail. Now we got to do some of that test for you. Now I know, right? I don't think you. I mean, but I'm serious. I'm kind of at a point where I'm like,
Yeah.
when big tech is the only place where you can get information,
Mhm.
and they control information.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And we have fewer and fewer people kind of thinking independently because we're all forced to do this ideological purity stuff.
Mhm.
I think the only way to kind of get people to start thinking independently and being more thoughtful about their civic engagement is to kind of have refreshers.
Sure. Sure.
If
I
we're
agree
not
with that.
teaching civics anymore,
Yeah.
and that's a decision made by, I guess the state legislature or whoever puts together the curriculums.
It's the curriculums too, because I know they have government still, but when in government they're not teaching anything that has to do with civics.
Sure.
It's just
Sure.
it's just kind of a base blanket, like, okay, you pass government, you're good to go. You
Yeah.
can, you can graduate now. So
I think we need to have sort of a national civic renewal where we're engaging everybody to relearn the history of the nation, the founding documents, and what the point of the government is here.
I think it's important for
Yeah.
sure. So if you go to the 33rd district and you make it, is that something that will you be involved at all in curriculum? I know a lot of it is the school councils, right? I mean, they set
Yeah,
that,
the
or is
school
that
boards. Yeah,
the
but
school
but
boards?
the state legislature sets educational policy.
Okay.
So yeah, I would be involved in that, and I think like for sure I'd want to incorporate and try to get more civics education. I think the number one thing about public education right now, though,
Mhm.
my concern is that we do not need to be making college the only thing people go off to.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
When I graduated high school, I went to community college, did community college,
Yep.
worked full time. But then I was like, "God, I'm kind of tired of this. Like, and I decided to go take a gap year and go teach English in Nepal
I saw that.
and backpack around India.
I was going to ask you about that. How was that?
Incredible, like, you know. So okay,
Worldview, right?
Little segue here. You try living without electricity or running water.
I mean, it sounds great. I'm kind of one of those guys that if I could live in a, tent out in the woods, I feel like it'd be awesome, but I sit here in a podcast studio with all this stuff right now, so I'm probably full of shit.
But I lived with people, like, literally they did not have running water, they did not have electricity.
Yeah.
And it really gives you a perspective.
Yeah, I bet.
You know, but to go back to you were asking about what pathways.
Yes.
One thing that stuck with me is I was in an Uber in Spokane, and I like talking to my Uber drivers about just life and giving them like a little bit of therapy. they need the therapy sometimes. And
sometimes you give, sometimes you get.
Yeah, right. And there's all those kind of third spaces of therapy. Like your barber could be a therapist. Your taxi driver, Uber driver. Yep. So I was talking to him, and I was like, "So how's it going? What's going on? How's your life?" And
22nd Avenue. How's your life, bro?
What are you getting off at?
So give me the story of your life. And he was like, "Yeah, everything's fine except my son. You know, he's 16, trying to figure out what he wants to do next, and I just can't get him to stop only wanting to play video games, and I can't, all that sort of stuff." And we were chatting, we kept talking, and we kind of had an epiphany. This random Uber driver and I.
Yeah.
We kind of had this epiphany. You know, the happiest 18-year-olds right now, like in scores of surveys and demographics, are 18-year-olds who are Mormons.
Really?
And you know why? I think I know why.
Okay.
When they're 18, they get paired up.
Oh, go off on a mission.
And then they go off on a mission.
Yeah.
And they get to go have 2 years of an exciting, well, mostly if you're going to somewhere, if you're going somewhere different around the world. If you go to Burien, I don't know. If you get sent somewhere different around the world and you're 18 and you're with your pals.
My buddy's son went to Africa or something like that.
Oh yeah, no, I know people who went to Mexico. Like I have a couple relatives who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints because they don't like to say Mormon anymore. So the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I think they kind of made that an official move.
Well,
but
they made it. That's the long form.
I know you gotta say LDS.
LDS. All right, LDS.
So I know some people. I know some LDS folks who went to Mexico. I know some LDS folks who went to Japan.
Okay.
And like they get paired up. You go to that mission. You get paired up. You get your two get paired up with more, and then you spend 2 years.
Yeah.
Doing cool stuff,
Doing
like
cool
you
stuff.
know,
Yeah,
like
learning,
preaching,
yeah.
learning, like
Sure.
experiencing that culture, learning another language, and that's when you've just gone through so many years of school.
Yeah.
I am not shocked that sometimes a break could help
No, it
someone.
makes sense. It does make sense. You know, in just getting that third that otherworldly view, right?
Yeah.
Getting outside of your bubble, taking a look. I mean, we've talked about it a couple times on here. I grew up in a small town, and I didn't leave that small town until I went to California a couple times with my cousin, but I moved when I was 19 to Phoenix, right? And to me, Phoenix was a big city, and then from there I got to go to Mexico and then, Canada and just done other things. And to me, it completely changed my perspective of everything, And so for my kids, I've tried to do that. I've tried to show them, let's go to different states, let's go to different places. My oldest, been to Mexico. My youngest hasn't been out of the country yet, but we're working on that. Plus now passports and all the flying, the real IDs and all that.
Yeah.
But that's important to me for them to be able to, like, they just went for spring break. I put them both on a plane. And they flew to see their oldest sister who lives in California. And just being able to do that, they're growing up and I want them to do that. So I think that's huge, and I think they have friends that have never been outside of Washington State, and they're like, that's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, maybe, but they're getting outside. They're learning how to be people in the world. And I think that's important. And I think that what the LDS community is doing is huge in that aspect.
Yeah, and it's kind of like you don't college doesn't need to be the immediate thing for everybody.
Right.
Because people might want to go into the trades. I think that's great. A great pathway is getting into the trades.
Wait, where's it? Trades. That's where I came up.
There we go. Learning skills.
It's
important.
Yep.
And we need a whole lot more of them.
We need a lot more.
And a lot of young men, this is the thing. I think this has kind of been a big point that folks have been trying to figure out. There's this big, what's going on with young men? What's the problem with young men? And we got to be worried about young men because we got a situation where young men like aren't getting into the trades, or they're not going to college, or they're a lot of them end up in difficult situations where a lot of the people who I see on the streets are young men.
Yeah.
Who are getting caught up in doing drugs or having mental health issues.
Yeah.
A lot of them are young men.
Yeah.
And I want to be in a place and help shepherd in a place where we're building out opportunities for young men.
Yeah.
We're building out young opportunities for everybody, but young men are in a time right now where everyone's trying to figure out I think it's like, I was reading this great article about ADHD, and it was all about how we immediately think that if you can't sit still, or you're 16-year-old kid and you can't sit still.
Yeah.
Oh, you got ADHD. Here's some pills.
I'm just laughing because Hampton and I were talking about how when we were younger, when he was younger, and even when I was younger, everybody would have been diagnosed with something. But you know what we did? Go outside. You're hyper as shit. Go run around in a circle. I don't care. Get your ass outside and pull the weeds. What is wrong with you?
We don't have enough of that.
Right.
And I remember when I was a kid, 6th grade, 5th grade, I was shooting airsoft guns.
Yeah, for sure.
Running around playing war and, doing stupid stuff like trying to knock hornets' nests out of trees.
Yep.
But I was also mowing lawns and playing sports and doing theater and, making movies and like being interested in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Like this kind of confusion around like, is this a medical disorder? We got to give them a bunch of pills, or, are these just young kids that need stuff to do? And so education, I think, needs to move into this realm of, we need to provide as many outlets as possible for people depending on what their interests are.
Right.
If your interest is in building stuff, we don't need to force you to go sit in a classroom. We should be encouraging you to go learn how to build stuff.
I mean, I grew up working with my hands. In my high school, I did diesel engines. I did small gas engines. I did welding. I did electrical. And then I also did media and mass media repair with computers. Like, I learned how to build a computer, which is not really relevant nowadays. It's completely different. But we had those things, vocationals, right? And I knew that unless I got a football scholarship, I wasn't going to college. I knew that. So I'm like, our team's 2-9. I better weld. I better learn how to wire some stuff. I mean, I did that anyways growing up. We worked on all of our own stuff. A car broke down, you fixed it yourself. The fence broke, you fixed it yourself. So, but I had that opportunity
Where'd
in
you
high
grow
school.
up? Where'd you grow up? Where is this?
In the sugarcane field next to the
I grew up in Fallon, Nevada.
Oh my gosh, so did a guy I went to college with.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Garrett Colt.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The Colt family is a family I knew who grew up in Fallon.
Colt.
Yeah, we went to Wazoo together. But
Okay. My daughter goes to Wazoo.
oh, go Cougs, go Cougs!
Go
I don't care what
Cougs.
anyone listens to. Go Cougs! Oh, I thought you were about to play like the Cougar fight song.
I don't have that one. So
No, that's He's working on it, though.
I'm working on it. Yeah.
We got to work on that. But I think like there's such a spotlight on higher education too right now, and like there's so much money that goes into higher education. There's a lot of administrative bloat for sure, and there's a lot of attention on athletics, and I know there's a lot of stuff going on with athletics too. But for me, the higher education elements, like there's a lot of administrative bloat with higher ed, and there's a lot of programs that like kids are going into, but then like they come out with $100,000 in debt, and they studied something where there's not a career pathway. So I think we've got to be a little. So just to kind of the question about education, we need to provide more opportunities for career and workforce pathways that don't just mean 4 more years of sitting in a classroom. Could mean a couple of years, 1 year, 2 years of learning how to do something. But we also need that is to say we also need more. We also need positions of employment and career that are do require college. So it's not to say like get rid of it. But
I agree with you 100%.
It's just a matter of like figuring out the balance and what the opportunities are.
I mean, there's a lot of opportunity out there for people like me, Hamp, you got a engineering degree, but you don't use it.
I run a bar. And I take those ADHD people and I hire them.
There you go.
Keep my bar clean,
Love
They
that.
want something to do. Okay, you go over there, you go over there. And if I'm running short, I call my wife. She got the same problem. I say, they need help up here, right? I got a spotless bar.
I love that.
No, but I mean, there's a lot of like right now, again, I'm in the trades, and it is really, really hard to find guys that want to work in the trades, that want to be technicians, in so many different aspects. I talk to not only guys in other trades here locally, but in other states, because I worked in a lot of other states. And I'm like, are you guys having the same problem? They're like, yeah, there's nobody out there to hire, man. Nobody's coming in, you know, and the people that do come in, they don't want to work hard. You know, I mean, it's labor, it's manual labor, and you got to get out there and you got to do it. If you're willing to, you'll be successful. Yeah. You know, so it's tough.
It's a little bit of this sort of immediate gratification thing too. I think social media plays way too much a role in this. Like I think too many people are looking at stuff on social media and they see someone who, you know, 30 seconds and be a millionaire.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm still looking for that penny.
And it costs you $10 to figure that out. What are you going to tell you how to do it? So.
Yeah, exactly. In 3 easy steps, but you got to click here. Give me your credit card number first.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of opportunity aside from college, and I've tried to give that to my kids as well. You know, my oldest daughter went into trade as far as a chef. She got her certification and she cooks. Middle daughter is going to Wazoo currently, anthropology. And I always ask her, like, what are you going to do with an anthropology degree? You know, but she's either going to do, she wants to be a professor or she wants to go do field work if she finds it. So, and she loves it. She's passionate about it.
Awesome.
So, and she's a good student. That's my thing. She likes to work hard. She's at home right now doing homework. You know what I mean? Like, she loves her stuff. She loves studying. She loves school. Now, my youngest, she's doing great in high school. She's doing great. But I keep telling her, like, don't feel like you have to take any path that your sisters have taken. You do you, whatever that is. I got your back.
Good.
You know, she's only going to have to take like 2 classes her senior year. So I'm like, we're not going to waste this year. Let's get you going into Highline. You know, we're going to do some community college. And that way, when you do graduate, we're going to find out if you really want to stay in school. You know, if you want to take a gap year, get away from the school stuff for a little bit, and we'll figure it out. But anyways, all that to say, I agree with you. I think college being forced down everyone's throat is not always the way. So what do you think about voting locally? I mean, how big is that to you? Obviously, you're a local politician.
Yeah.
You know, everybody is always concerned about all the big guys way up in D.C. that we can't talk to directly, but you're sitting here with us right now. And I think that that's really important.
Well, I think that's a bit of the issue. I think, you know, there was a Seattle Times article today that said the protests against Trump in Washington continue to grow and grow, and they're building up and building up. And I'm like, great, that's great. Right. Sure, that's good.
Yeah.
We need that. We need that criticism.
Right.
I wonder how many of those people could tell you who's on their city council.
Sure.
Or who's on their school board.
Right. Sure.
Because we need attention to be paid at the local level. This is where everything happens. Your police aren't national police. They're your Des Moines police.
Right.
Your people fixing your roads are not national people. They're your Des Moines Public Works.
Yep.
You know, your Des Moines Parks and Rec, your Highline School District. Those are all local.
Yeah. Local programs.
Local program.
Initiatives.
Yeah, that's all local. And your property taxes.
Yep. All local.
All of them. All your property taxes.
Yeah.
Well, not all of them. I mean, you know what I mean? Like your property taxes go into that.
Yeah.
Your sales tax is going to that. Your B&O tax is going to that. Yeah. All of that, a portion of it is going to your local stuff. And the reason why I think local politics and local government is some of the most important for people to pay attention to is because it's always the one that people complain about when there's an issue that happens.
That is fair. Yeah.
You know, like it's always the one. I get stopped at Fred Meyer or QFC and someone says, I need to talk to you about the pothole on my street.
Right.
Or where are the speed bumps?
Right.
And you know, why does my neighborhood have a park?
Right.
And you know, it's all local stuff.
Yep.
If you see your state, you know, I would hope too that when you see your state representative walking down the aisle at Fred Meyer or whatever, you'll be like, hey, why are my property taxes so high?
Right.
Or, you know, or what's going on? Why is the light rail not done? Why where's the investments? Why are we not building more new schools? And like, why is my healthcare still expensive? But locally, and I guess the state legislature is local too. So I'll clump it into that because it's still more directly related to you, and you can have more of an impact on the change at the local and the state level.
Right.
And it's really kind of where a smaller group of people can have a bigger impact.
Right. I was actually going to say that. Do you think that you're going to see more of a return or more of an adjustment to the system by voting locally instead of worrying nationally all the time?
Well, I think so because when I get people, when 5 people come up to me and say we've got this petition or we've got this issue, you know, that's a decent chunk of people. Yeah. You know, Burien's not that big. Des Moines isn't that big.
Yeah.
And when you get a solid chunk of people coming up to you and be like, we've got this problem, we've got this issue, we need help solving it.
Right.
Like I am able to respond to that in an easier way than your member of Congress is able to respond to that.
Sure, for sure.
Just because I'm right here.
Right.
It's also because this is all way more tangible.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, national defense matters a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The social safety net is so important. That's like you giving your money to the federal government and then it's going to that, but like it's not really tangible.
Yeah.
Whereas like police and parks and
Which
hospitals,
is the stuff that everybody's always worried about, always talking about,
Always.
always concerned about, right? I mean, in the job that I work, I actually do a lot of work in your city of Burien. I have some contracts with the city of Burien.
Great.
And it's a lot of, we got broken into, we got to lock it down.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just you. I do the same thing with Tacoma, Kent. You know, I don't have anything here in Des Moines. But no, I go to a lot of different cities and, you know, I'm talking to the city employees. I'm talking to the guys that are running Parks and Rec and stuff like that. And they're like, yeah, man, I mean, we're welding things shut to keep people out. You know? So that's an immediate thing that we're seeing right now, things that we can vote on, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So.
And it matters.
Yeah.
It matters. And that's why competition matters. And that's why people stepping up to be interested matters, because we need to have the debate. We need to have the conversation. We need to have it civilly and we need to have it in a positive way.
Yep.
I don't like slinging mud. If you've noticed here this entire time I've talked, I've not said one thing negative
been great.
about the person I'm about the person who might be running against me. Like, because it's not worth the time and energy. I want to talk positively about how we solve problems.
Yeah. No, I think that's great, man. I
So
think
it's-
it'd be great if it was always that way.
Being on the legislature, how much power you have and what power you control, and when it comes to certain things.
Well, that's a great question. So here we go. Let's do a little bit of what would be on the test of civic renewal.
Yeah, right.
And
You just failed.
there's
I'm a good listener, so
you got it, man. You got it. There's 98 members of the state house,
Okay.
and there's 49 members of the state senate. And I'll put my work hat on because of my full-time job. So I'm mayor of Burien, which I like to say is my full-time responsibility.
Okay.
It's not a full-time job. It's my full-time responsibility. I have a full-time job doing advocacy work on behalf of the dentists of the state of Washington.
I saw
So I'm
that,
I'm
actually,
the
yeah.
advocacy director of the Washington Dental Association. So we had a bill this year. Let's talk about this really quick. So this bill would do things like make it so that dental insurance companies can't deny you getting two things done on the same day, because right now dental insurance can restrict you getting two things done on the same day. So you got to come back 2 days in a row to do like a root canal and a cavity or whatever. Two things, you can't do them. So our bill says you can. Let's just use that as an example. So we came up with the idea. We wanted to do this. We wanted to advocate for this. You find a sponsor of the bill. So you go to a member of the House and you say, we want you to sponsor this bill. And that member of the House says yes or no. Then you take that bill and you go around all the other House members and senators and you say, we want you to sign on to this bill. We want support for this bill. Then that bill goes through the long process of going through the committees. So you have a committee for your topic of the bill. So in our case, it was healthcare.
Okay.
And the healthcare committee does a hearing on the bill where people can say, we're pro this or we're con this. And so you give a fair opportunity for people to say yes or no to do this or not do this. Then it's got to be voted out of committee. And these are all the places where like politics come into play. So first place politics come into play is like it being voted out of committee. You got to get people on the committee to say, yes, we want this to continue moving forward. Once you have the policy subject down, it goes to the financial committee. So you got to decide if there's going to be taxes, if it's going to cost money, whatever.
Right.
And then there's a little less political, but they just got to decide if they have the money for it. This year's a tough year because there's a $12 billion deficit.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And that's causing some problems.
Right.
That's a lot of money.
That's always going to cause problems.
That's always going to cause problems. That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
and we can talk about like what are better ways to raise money for government services in the state of Washington. In fact, I'd like to talk about that in a minute. So put a bookmark on that.
Yep.
And so, there you go. And so you decide if it's going to cost money. After they decide if it is or isn't going to cost money, it then, depending on what chamber it's in, so the House or the Senate, it then goes to that chamber to be voted on.
Okay.
Once it gets voted on in one of those chambers, it then goes back to the other chamber. So this is our process. Our process is long and deliberative for a reason.
Yeah.
Because we want things that come out of that process to be good, smart, public policy things.
Yes.
So how much power do you have?
Yes.
You have 1/98th power.
Hey, one's better than none. One's better than none.
You know?
1/98th amount of power.
You know, it's like hard to hear a who, you know?
Yeah. And like this is why we also elect, like this is why the system I think makes a lot of sense, because we elect people by district. I think we could think about different ways of doing that. Like, I think we could think about, like, do we want to increase the number of people who are elected? Should it be proportional? Like, all those sorts of ways of people are starting to think about different ways of representation. But so we have our legislative branch, and then we have our executive branch, right? And like, this system works because there's checks and balances of the equal branches of government.
Right.
You know, you get the legislative branch that says we want to change the law. You get the executive that says, yeah, maybe, maybe not. Right. We need to figure out how to implement it. We need to figure out how to administrate it. And then you get the courts that say what's in the right lane of law and what's not in the right lane of law.
Right.
So
Right.
our system works, I think, still to this day.
It works until they do something that somebody doesn't want you to. As a voter, right? You're like, it's broken. They didn't do what I wanted them to do.
Yeah.
Everything's broken. It doesn't work.
Well, and there's stuff that happens where, like, voters make a vote and say we don't want this or we do want this, and then there's scenarios that have happened in the past where, like, people who didn't want that to happen find a way to maneuver around it to make that outcome reversed.
Right.
Like, that does happen, and you know what that does? Continues to create distrust in the system.
Yeah, for sure.
And especially when something's been voted on, and then people were like, "Well, then why did I just vote?"
Yeah.
If you're going to do the thing you want to do,
you're gonna do it anyways, yeah.
then why did I just vote?
For sure.
So that's all about the distrust in the system.
Yeah.
Now to the financials. So the biggest thing in the state of Washington right now is that we have a $12 billion deficit.
I didn't know it was that high.
It's huge.
Wow.
In the city of Burien, we were going to be in a $6 million budget deficit spending after last year if we didn't figure it out.
Right.
But we figured it out.
Oh, nice! Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. It's a big thing that no one cares about. Like, like,
I mean, it is a big
hey,
thing,
we
though.
got out of the deficit spending that we were projected to be in, which
that's great.
was
though.
huge for me because I didn't want to be in a scenario where we didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And
You have to make a lot of sacrifices to make that happen.
we didn't make a lot of sacrifice. So the combination we made that I think is the winning answer for governments and especially the state, the combination is to economize where you can.
Right.
Consolidate, economize, rearrange, be creative with how you're spending the money in order to deliver the services you need to deliver. So that's number
Allocate
one.
it correctly.
Allocate it correctly. Sometimes that means rearranging and saying, okay, we don't need money over there. We need money over there. Let's downsize over here, but we need to help out over here. So we did that a little bit to make it so that we did a couple cuts.
Right.
Then we did a small revenue adjustment. So we increased the B&O tax a little tiny bit.
Right.
Not a whole lot, just enough to kind of cover the baseline where we needed to cover. But then the third leg of that stool is something that I just don't hear enough people talking about anymore. Growing the economy.
Right.
We made Burien a more attractive place to do business.
I know a lot of people who go to Burien for all kinds of reasons.
Totally.
You hear about it more and more.
Let's talk about business since you opened it. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but are food trucks not allowed in Burien?
Oh, you're opening up this can of worms. There's always
Why
those
would you ask
micro
that?
issues. Well, so we did a food truck pilot program.
Okay.
Where we tried to figure out where and how food trucks could be operated.
Okay.
From that pilot program, the recommendation from the Economic Development Board was that we don't want to allow food trucks.
Now, is that because it's taking business away from brick and mortars?
That was the argument.
Okay.
I don't necessarily know if there's any evidence to support that.
Yeah, don't be a dick, Ham.
Because because from like basic economic science, competition is good.
Right. Yeah, true.
And
Like you said earlier,
competition is good. And I believe that competition is good.
Yeah.
But that was a vote by the majority of the council to limit the allowance of food trucks.
I
in the
like
city.
that real quick. I'm like, I'm going to go to Burien. No, you're not.
Yeah, but you can't get a permit for even here in Des Moines.
Des Moines is.
I'd love to revisit it though. I think food trucks are a great opportunity, and I think
Food trucks are popular, but I do understand where, as a brick and mortar business owner, if a food truck pulled up out here, you'd be like, what the hell?
Not exactly
Is
in front of my
competition,
spot.
good then? Is that a good thing?
Listen, I love competition like you understand? I've been playing competition all my life. I love a good challenge.
Sure.
You understand? Love
That is
it.
true.
So bring it on.
There we go. It was ultimately determined that it was too much of a concern for the brick and mortar restaurants to allow, but
Okay.
but it's a part of growing the economy, and like that could be a part of it too. But But
have you thought of doing like, or you guys might, I don't know, do you do like a food truck day, like a special time when all the food trucks get to come in? And
I think people have talked about that. I mean, one way to do that's the farmers market. We have a farmers market every Thursday where a bunch of food vendors come in.
Yeah, I've been to the Burien farmers market.
There's some local businesses that bring in food trucks, so it's possible. One way to grow the economy.
You're right.
And when you're trying to figure out how to economize public services and figure out how to keep public services where they need to be with not as much money that you have, one way to do it, especially when you're a consumption-based economy and a consumption-based government, in the state of Washington where we're pretty much all consumption-based,
right,
you need to grow where consumption happens, and you need to allow for tax revenues to be on consumption, because that's kind of what we got.
right.
And in the state of Washington, they've got this huge $12 billion thing, and that's what the big debate in the state legislature is right now. Like, what kind of tax do we raise $12 billion in taxes, or do we figure out, like, do we make some cuts? And so the governor, the big debate back and forth. And they don't have a whole lot of time left. Like, the session ends the 29th of April.
Okay.
And so they got, 2 weeks left, a week and a half?
Yeah.
To figure out where there is. And if they don't figure it out, then they go into a special session.
So does this kind of stuff get you excited? I mean, it sounds like you kind of ended up in city council, then you were voted in as mayor, and now you're pushing towards legislature. Is this the path that you want to continue? Does this excite you? Do you like, is it, you want to help the community? You want to help Washington? Do you have, aspirations of continuing this trajectory?
Well, there's parts that excite me. Like, I love debate.
Okay.
I love figuring out solutions to problems.
Okay.
And I love a good challenge too. I love a good challenge too.
That's good.
And figuring out solutions to problems.
Okay.
And I kind of view myself as a generalist. Like, I'm not, I went to grad school and I studied international history and economic policy. So I'm a little bit of a generalist though, because a lot of things interest me. But I really like solving specific problems. What gets me really excited is finding out the solution to a problem.
Sure.
It's not necessarily like the identification of the problem or like the end result itself. It's like, did we find the solution? All right, we did. That's awesome.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep doing it until the people decide they don't want me to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
like,
it just sounds like you're excited about it. That's why
I get excited about it. Yeah, I get
excited. That's great. That's refreshing.
Yeah. I'd rather be excited about it, be positive about it, and be talking about it like this than not being excited about it.
Have you ever found a solution and then roadblock after roadblock? You're like, if we just do this thing, I know we can fix it if we just do this thing. And then it's like, can't do the thing, whether it's voted out or whether there's another reason. I mean, that has to happen.
That happens all the time.
Yeah,
and but you got to get consensus.
Yeah.
If we lived in a environment where I just got to do everything I wanted, like, that's not, I don't want that. I want consensus. I want to bring people in and see what we can get majorities to agree upon.
Right.
That's the beauty of it. It ends up being not your thing, not my thing. It ends up being our thing. It ends up being something that we all kind of figure out what to do.
Yeah, makes sense.
But I do get excited about it. I used to get excited more about other things. Like, when I was younger, I used to get more excited about, film and telling stories.
You have time for other things at this point?
Now? No. Coachella.
Nice.
I made time for Coachella.
Nice. You got to go to Coachella sometimes.
Yeah, you got to make time for that. And I make time for like taking a little bit of time to like go see a movie or go see a show or try a new restaurant. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not married and I don't have kids, but
I didn't know.
I'm a family man in the sense that, like, I care about my family.
Sure. No, I didn't know if you married and had kids.
No, I know. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it's when you run for office, if you're serious about it, it really should kind of occupy the majority of your time, if not all of it.
All right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because my duty and my job and my interest is in the people of the place I'm trying to convince to vote for me. Right. And like, that requires showing up and being present and having conversations.
Yeah.
And answering tough questions and trying to convince people that you're the right person for the job.
Yeah. And I think one thing too that you're projecting really well here is that, and I try to make sure my kids understand this, and I want the younger generation to understand this, is that, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but you guys work for us. right? I mean, the politicians work for the people. And I think people forget that sometimes. You know what I mean? They look at politicians and they're like, oh, they're doing all the things and they're ruining it. And I'm like, it's not royalty, guys. It's not royalty. We are electing them and they are working for us. And I think people forget that sometimes.
You know who's the group of people that forgets it the most? Politicians.
Now, you know what? I agree with you 100%.
And
outside looking in, I would say that I agree with
We've
that.
got a lot of politicians that
Yeah.
do it for politicians.
Right.
And I'm not afraid to say that. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know, I already get criticized for criticizing politicians. But
Sure.
my thing is like, if you're not doing it for the people, you're not doing it for the right reasons.
Right.
Why are you here?
Well, I think and I'm just guessing again, I think there's a point where you become that career politician.
Right.
Right. Where you like, I can't lose this. If I lose this, I lose everything. This is all I've got. You know what I mean?
I've
It's different.
I used to not be a person that's for term limits. I've kind of started being a person that's for term limits.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, you don't really need to be there for 20 years.
I think there's an argument to be made both ways, really, because you've got career politicians that know the system, right? They know it in and out, and they know how to use it and utilize it and work it, whether it in a bad or a good way. And I could see where it's great to get some of those people out and get some fresh ideas in there, but those fresh people may not know how to work the system correctly.
They'll learn though,
Yeah.
but they learn though.
Yeah.
And like, I think about the U.S. Senate. There are people who are in the U.S. Senate who are 90 years
Yeah,
old.
Been there for 70 years.
And it's on the Republican side and the Democratic
Oh, yeah,
side. But
for
like,
sure.
they've been there for forever.
Mhm.
And there's an argument to be made for new blood. And because when you get to that point, you're just kind of like, you're just kind of
You're just hanging out.
like
You're just filling a seat.
You know, and
Yeah.
so I think I think about too, like, I'm Catholic, and so I went to mass this morning at Easter time. Happy Easter!
Happy Easter.
Celebrate-
Yeah, I
if you
know. I'm
celebrate
like,
Easter.
when we set this up, I'm like, oh man, that's Easter.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
And you know, I was thinking about this because the Catholic Church requires priests to retire at 75.
Oh, really? I didn't
When
know
you're
that.
75 years old, you're required to retire.
Okay.
You can keep doing it if you want to, but you have to actually retire. You have to literally go through the process, and then
Right.
if you want to come back and you're not done yet, like you have to petition and say I want to come back and I'm not done yet. But you are required to retire at 75.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so and
Doesn't sound like a bad idea.
well, and what's the retirement age in America? 65.
Yeah, it's supposed to be, but
So yeah, it's supposed to be. So like we've got a prime spot there at like 70. Like if
Right.
you look between 65 and 75, like 70 is a good retirement age, I
Right.
think. If you've worked your whole life and you're able to, you know,
you're
there's a
able to.
scenario where there's people who can't, which is
Yeah.
hard, and that's why we have the social safety net for sure.
Right.
That's why like what's going on in the federal government is so horrible for so
Yeah.
many people.
It is.
because they're taking away Medicaid and taking away Medicare and Social Security, or they're planning on it or thinking about it, which
Right.
is just scary beyond belief.
yeah.
But you know, like that's why people like my dad worked at Boeing for 35 years and he was able to retire at 65,
Right.
which is awesome.
That is great.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
My mom wishes he had different stuff to do now.
Right.
But
Can only fish so much.
this was the worst. This is a funny story. This was the worst. When he retired, I was doing a political event somewhere, and my mom was like, "Oh, please bring him. He's already retired. And not doing anything.
Just take him
And
with you,
just take him
please."
with you, please." And I brought him to this event, and there were a bunch of other like kind of newly retired guys who've been retired for like 3 or 4 years. And my dad says to them, he asks like, "Okay, what's your advice for a newly retired guy?" And these guys said, "Take 1 year and don't do anything.
Really.
Relax, see how it feels, get a sense for it." And so my dad went home to my mom and was like, "I figured it out. I'm not doing anything."
She's like, see what you
And
did?
my mom was like, "Why did you bring him to that?"
This is your fault. That's funny. I got to be honest, man. I mean, I'm a busy guy all the time, and the thought of doing nothing for a year, that kind of terrifies me.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know if I could do it, man. I know you couldn't do it.
No, I can't.
Well,
You can't do nothing for 3 hours straight.
Exactly. I got to be busy.
yeah, I do too. No, I there's a couple, you know, like there's a couple phrases that I kind of think about. Like one of them's exhaust yourself in the service of others is kind of a term I kind of go by. Exhaust yourself in the service
I like
of others.
that.
And then Ben Franklin said he's got a lot of great zingers, and one of his zingers was, "If you want something done, give it to a busy person."
Yeah. Yeah.
And like that's spot on.
Yeah.
You know, busy people know how to fill their calendar. They know how
is
to
true.
prioritize.
Yep.
No, like on the topic of retirement and in society too. Like I've been going around lately. I've been going to all the long-term care facilities and the assisted living
Assisted living,
facilities and those communities all around, just to kind of check on what's going on and see how everybody's doing. And you know what? I think the creation of Social Security, the creation of Medicaid and Medicare are two of the most important social safety net programs ever. Because
I believe that.
if you retire and you don't have any money, or you retire and you don't have anything, oh my goodness.
No, it's. I mean, my parents didn't stock money away. You know what I mean? I grew up and we didn't talk about politics. We didn't. You know, they worked hard. They worked very hard, but they weren't very financially. What's the word I'm looking for?
Savvy.
That'll work. Savvy. You know what I mean? So I don't know. They get whatever Social Security gives them, you know, and stuff like that. And they still work and stuff. But it's like, man, I don't need to be a rich man by any stretch, but I do want to be comfortable enough to not have to worry about it once I hit that age.
Totally.
So
yeah, I want to make sure my light stays on.
Yeah, exactly.
I can bend my elbow to my mouth with a fork in there, you know.
No, but I do think it's important. Yeah.
But one of the big issues is that in American society, and one of my biggest critiques of American social culture is that we aren't really a multi-generational society. You know, you go somewhere else around the world and you go to India. Yeah. There are 3 or 4 generations of people living together in a house. Yep. I mean, you go to East Asia, you go to China, Japan, Korea. There are 3 or 4 generations of people living in the house.
I always tell people to appreciate the United States, leave the country at least one time. Yeah. Just leave it one time and you'll come back and you'll be like, you're singing the Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah. I mean, I've spent quite a bit of time down in Mexico. You know, I used to do the Baja races down there and stuff. And it's insane that you'll be rolling down there and I'll come up to a checkpoint, right? You got 18-year-olds out there with AR-15s strapped to them, you know, and they want to check your truck and they want to shake you down and you give them a fistful of Halloween candy and an energy drink and you're on your way, man. You're gone, you know? And I'm like, there's 2 horrible things about that. 1, I got through the checkpoint with Halloween candy. 2, these are kids, you know, they're kids. And the only reason that the kids are signing up is they're not scared enough of the cartels yet. That's what I've been told by the locals down there. The reason why the military is all young is because the older guys are like, no, I don't mess with that because the cartel runs the show. And I don't know how true that is, but yeah, I mean, to what you're saying, like it's a different world, man, for sure. Different world. Mm-hmm. And I've only been there in Canada, but Canada was pretty nice. Canada was pretty chill. It was funny actually going to Canada. We were crossing the border and the guy's like, hey, how you guys doing? Come on in, man. Have a good time. Coming back to the United States, put your bag over there. I'm going through. What's in that? What are you bringing back? Well, whoa, man, I'm a citizen. What's going on? 2 completely different feels.
Totally.
Completely different feels.
100%.
So what do you want people to know? We're at an hour and 11 and we're in no rush, but I want to make sure, what are you running on? What is your platform? What do you want people to know about you heading into this election?
You know, a couple big things for me is I want to present an option of someone who's from this community, grew up in this community, born and raised. Like all my family's from here. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into trying to make this place better and improve the lives of everybody in it. But I think the biggest difference I bring is that my perspective is one that's of I want the government to be focused on outcomes for you. For people, not just for the government. And if
that's great.
we want things to be different, we have to do things differently.
Right.
And right now we're in a time where the things we've been doing don't seem to be working all that well.
Right.
We've got a higher level of crime right now. We've got the highest level of homelessness and drug addiction in the region, possibly the country.
Right.
We are not building enough homes. We're not building enough homes. We are not building enough of the a clean energy infrastructure we need to lower the costs of utilities and make it accessible for everybody. Light rail's not finished. We should all be mad about that. We should all be mad about light rail.
And the 405 too, man. What the hell?
You know?
I drive that thing all the time. Can we finish the 405, please, God?
But those are just examples of the government not being focused on outcomes.
Right.
And I think it's time for folks to come in and say, we need to be holding ourselves, politicians and government need to be holding ourselves accountable to the outcomes and the desires we want to actually take place.
Right.
We did that in Burien. We said we want to build more housing, and we made our comprehensive plan focused on density and multifamily tax exemptions and partnering with developers to build housing everywhere, transit-oriented development.
Nice.
We said we want to handle this homelessness crisis, and we want to get people off the streets and into shelter and services. And we put a bunch of money into outreach. We put a co-responder model in place for police to be with a mental health professional, and we said we're going to solve this. We're going to figure out what we need to do here
Yeah, we lost that here in Des Moines.
to get people help.
Yeah, we lost the person that works with the police for the mental health. I was at a deal, and there were some cops there, and I was talking to them, and they're like, yeah, we used to have that. We don't have that anymore. So, yeah, it's a huge thing.
So we got to do.
It's a huge thing.
So I think my biggest pitch is that I want the government to start working for people again, not just for the government. And I think right now in the state of Washington, we've got too few people making too many decisions with too much power, and the government's not stepping in to do enough about it. Some of those people are politicians. Some of those people are special interest groups. Some of those people are very wealthy people who have connections and things like that.
Sure.
But it is about making the government work for people again. And it is about being focused on outcomes.
Yeah.
And I think it's a failure when we don't have enough housing being built.
Yeah.
When we don't have enough beds being online for people who are going through mental health situations or drug addiction problems. I think it's a failure when we don't have high school graduation rates being 100%.
Yeah.
I think it's a failure when light rail's not built. I think it's a failure when my healthcare is still expensive.
Yeah.
And I think it's a failure when we are putting that all on the backs of working middle class people.
Right.
Because right now that's what it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we need a new direction of how people in the legislature are responding to the needs of people in their communities. And that's my pitch for it. And that's my bet. My bet is that people are going to respond to that.
Yeah.
And I hope that they do.
You heard it live and in living color.
That's right. Give 'em a... No, I mean, it sounds great. As a realist, I would say, though, we have to be willing to sacrifice some stuff, right? I mean, you can't make... Well, I mean, we print money all the time, but we don't print money all the time.
Oh, I was going to say, give me a little bit.
No, I planted a tree in the back.
You've been hiding some stuff here?
I'm saying as a nation, we print money, but locally to fix things, we're going to have to change some things, current things, right? And the thing that I always hear people is they complain, about higher taxes, or they complain about losing a program, or people that have state jobs lose their job, they get laid off, furloughed, whatever, or a program gets cut. I mean, realistically speaking, to fix some of these things, we're going to have to make some sacrifices, right?
But we just can't be throwing money at the same problem. Like my thing is we keep throwing more and more money at the same problem without trying to do it differently.
Right.
Like I'm fine trying to figure out how to fix a problem, but I'm pretty tired of throwing money at it, doing the same thing.
Sure, no, that makes sense.
Like the thing we've been doing ain't working.
Right.
So I'm fine.
Isn't that the definition of insanity?
It
right?
is. So
doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result.
and I have no issue with putting money into a problem.
Right.
My issue is putting money into a problem where we haven't tried to do something different to try to solve it.
Gotcha.
And yes, I mean I'm fine paying money in taxes to try to solve those problems. But
I mean, we don't want higher taxes.
Right.
I just I always think like it's gonna take something. If you want to fix something, it just doesn't happen. It doesn't come out of anywhere. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
But I also think it takes being a little more creative, and right now we need to be creative on how we generate public revenue.
Sure.
That doesn't involve just only raising property taxes or just only raising intangible assets taxes or
Right.
we need to be or business or B&O taxes.
I heard that.
Or B&O taxes, because small businesses, middle class working people we should not be doing this on the backs of small businesses and middle class working people. So we should be doing it where we're being creative with our revenue generation. And I think the best way to be creative with our revenue generation is by number one, being focused on growing the economy, because as I said before, we're in a consumption-based society, especially the state of Washington.
Yeah.
And the way we generate public revenue is by having a growing economy, and people spend money, and that's how we generate the majority of our revenue through sales tax, through B&O tax. But there are more creative ways to go about shifting the burden. For example, and I'm a big believer in this. I think it's an idea that's been around since the 19th century that nobody talks about. But a land value tax is something where you tax the value of land, you don't tax the value of property. And so it also goes to taxing unused property. It goes to taxing unused land and trying to incentivize people to grow the use of land. It also
You're talking to like an owner that owns a parcel that has nothing on it,
right?
Or,
It taxes it a little bit differently to try to incentivize the building on it, but it also taxes it to say you have a lot of value in this property. It's right in the middle of the city. We want you to try to do something with it.
Right.
And it is an opportunity to kind of move the burden away from people who are middle class homeowners to the burden of high valued landowners and high valued land so that we say this needs to be generating something. Right now it's not. So we're trying to incentivize you to generate something. And so land value tax has been around for a long time. Right now our burden's on property taxes, and we need to shift away from it being the burden on the middle class homeowners to where it's more progressive, where we're saying to high value landowners, like, you already own this land, you got a lot of high value in it, you're able to pay a little more because you have, this is a hugely valuable piece of property. That's one. I think we need to be focused on not putting so much burden on small businesses, because right now you get your B&O tax on top of your sales tax, on top of your assets tax, on top of your permitting, on top of it, you know, by the time
local.
Yeah. By the time you're done paying all your taxes.
This is a great conversation after just filing taxes.
Yeah, exactly. By the time you're done paying your taxes, you don't have anything to take home yourself after working so hard.
There's a reason why they call it gross income. It's freaking gross to look at. I wish I got all that.
and you know, we're talking about that from the perspective of small businesses. I'm not talking about the big businesses can handle it, but like they got a lot of loopholes. They got a lot of loopholes, and we need to look at closing those loopholes. So if you're a huge corporation in the state of Washington, you can pay your taxes. Like you can pay your taxes, Amazon. Like you can, but for the small businesses, there's a way to kind of streamline the tax collection and make it something where it's not so burdensome. It's called a value added tax. They use it in Europe. My thing about this is right now in the state of Washington, their ideas of tax and their ideas of how to generate public revenue is so convoluted, and there's so many proposals being put out there. We need to streamline it and simplify it, and it's possible to do that. There are ideas that have been utilized in different places around the world for years where it's not as big of a burden. It is progressive, and you find ways to do that without stymieing the economic growth that you need to have happen.
Okay. All right. I mean, there's a lot there to unpack. I mean, there's just so many questions that you could run with.
Oh yeah, we could have 2 more hours talking about taxes.
But it sounds great. It's an avenue that maybe needs to be explored more, or isn't, or not being explored the right way, right? And just
because I just think people are afraid to kind of think creatively about it.
Sure.
And like that's why I really value what the governor's been doing, because the governor's been saying, like, hold up, like this is a lot. $12 billion in taxes, like, come on, like we need to be thinking about this better.
But do you hit roadblocks in that scenario with these big companies, right?
He has, and they have, and the legislature has, right? Like when the legislature proposed all their wealth tax, the biggest companies in the world who are all based here said, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're a huge tech city, right? I mean, they're here.
They were literally like,
they're here.
Like their letter, their letter was literally like, do you want to be responsible for the moving of Amazon and Microsoft? And like, do you want that on your, you know, like, we're ready. Like, you know, like you put this, we're done. Like they literally put a letter there, like, we're not playing games. Like, and we can't afford that. Like the state could not afford to lose the biggest businesses of the world.
It drives everything in this area.
Yeah.
I mean, you either work for Boeing, Alaska, Microsoft, Google. Facebook, Amazon, like they're all out here, you know.
And there needs to be that relationship between the private sector, the public sector, and the folks that aren't working in those companies, because the wealth generated from those places is great and it's making a lot of people a lot of money. But we need to find a way to continue to grow the economy where the middle class and the folks who aren't in those massively wealthy corporations are also making more money and also growing wealth. And the way to do that is we need to continue to, you know, incentivize economic growth. We need to continue to incentivize workforce opportunities. We need to streamline our tax system where it's more fair and more less burdened on working class, middle class people. And I'm interested in having those creative conversations. And I guess that's my point, is that I'm not stymied or saddled with only one ideological one thing, you know, I'm stuck on this, and I'm not. I mean, I'm
refreshing.
I am open to have a creative conversation about how we pay for the services we need to pay for, and what is what the priorities are for the state.
Right. Well, that makes sense, man. I think that's awesome. How has the response been for you as far as being mayor so far in Burien? Are the local businesses happy? Is the community happy? How have things been since you've been?
Well, gosh, I want to say yes. You know, I don't do a poll. You know,
no, but I mean, you've been there. You talk to the people. I mean, we know our mayor here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she comes into Creole sometimes.
Totally. Yeah. Tracy's great. Tracy's great. But I when I walk down the street, people talk to me. I guess you know, when I go to the grocery store, people talk to me.
That's always good.
I gauge it by, are people showing up mad at city council meetings?
Okay.
And
It's a good gauge.
yeah, and for a long time people were.
Okay.
We haven't had that for a while.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's a good gauge.
We
I think
fixed
it's
our
a good gauge.
deficit spending problem.
Yeah.
We've been working on improving the homelessness situation. We've been working on reducing crime. We've been building more housing. We've been streamlining and permitting.
Yeah.
More houses, more businesses. We're opening up 9 child care centers this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because we passed an ordinance to allow child care to be home-based child care.
Oh, okay. My kids went to a home-based childcare.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, they did. She was amazing. Miss Kim, if she ever hears this, you were amazing.
You
kids
go,
still
Miss
talk
Kim.
about- Yeah. Kids still talk about her. She was awesome.
My in-home child care person when I was growing up was named Kathleen. It was my mom's name too. So
Okay.
she was in Burien, but
Nice.
but yeah, I mean, I say we're doing a good job, and I'm proud of what we've been working on.
Awesome.
And I'm proud of the city council. I think everyone on the city council has worked really hard and has been focused on solving problems. And we try to not have fights. For a while, it was tough. For a while, there were a lot of fights.
Yeah.
It was kind of like must-see TV for a little bit.
Very cool.
But when I became mayor, I said, we are not doing that.
You guys do pay-per-view? You could do
It basically was. When I became mayor, I said, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
We're
Do
being
you guys,
serious.
are the city council meetings televised?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I thought they were. Yeah.
Can anybody walk in and just go?
No. I mean,
You gonna go down there?
You mean to the city council? I mean, I thought you mean like on TV, or do you mean come to the city council meeting?
Come in and just sit down.
Oh yeah, of course you can come in and say. I thought you meant like, can anyone walk in and just like be on TV and show up on city council? And I'm like,
Wearing that bush? Oh, no.
No, you can't. You can't just walk in and sit at the city council. Of course, you can come into the meeting. Like, yeah, you're able to come to the meeting.
Okay.
Anybody can come to the meeting if you want to. You know, my old boss though, I used to work for a member of Congress, and he had a line where, you know what C-SPAN is?
Yes.
It's the show encasing government.
Yeah.
And he was like, if you saw me on C-SPAN the other day, you have too much time on your hands.
Right.
And so like I feel the same way about my televised city council meetings. I'm like, if you're watching the televised city council meetings, you need to join a club. Right.
Yeah, I don't watch it. That's why.
I'll watch a congressional hearing now and again on YouTube. You know, I'll go on there and once it's done, you can find them on YouTube and you can kind of scrub through and different things. Like I'm a weirdo. I like UFO stuff. The UFO hearings, I was all over that watching those. You know, those are fun.
I think my main point is literally just like we got to a point though where it stopped being must-see TV and
that's good.
started being boring government.
That's
again.
the point. That's good.
And that's the point. Like, and that was the point I was trying to make happen. Like, I want to go back to where no one has to pay attention to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are just
working,
keeping the trains running.
Yeah.
Making
it's
it
pretty
happen.
wild sometimes. I've seen some of the battles that'll happen in
Oh,
hearings
yeah.
like that.
Oh,
It gets pretty crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So if you win for 33rd district and you go in, are you going to be doubling as mayor, or do you leave the mayor's position and go full time?
Well, in the state of Washington, there's not a law that says you can't have 2 public positions.
Okay.
There are a lot of people in the legislature that are city council members as well. I don't like that.
No.
I wouldn't want 2 positions. I
Okay.
think that's kind of double dipping. And
Sure.
there are plenty of people who can do the job. You know, there are plenty of people who can.
So your
step
plan
up
to
to
be main focus would be going in,
Yeah.
being part of the 33rd district,
Yeah.
working on that stuff, and somebody else can step up as mayor. Is
Yeah.
anybody interested in stepping up to be mayor? right
Well,
now,
hold
you know
on,
of?
man. I got to win first. Like,
Well, you're going to win because you ain't got no running mate as it is right now. So, I mean, if somebody like what you're doing, because nobody said, I'm not running against him.
What's the requirement to run?
the requirements that you got to be you got to be a registered voter in the district.
Okay, you didn't have to hold office in any position.
No, you don't have to hold office beforehand. No.
All right, gotcha.
But I've worked really hard. I've raised over $80,000, which is a bit of a record for this time frame for this district. I've gotten endorsements. I've been knocking on doors.
Well,
and
you're gonna win. I'm telling you.
No, I hope so. I hope so.
Come right back here and sit in that chair and say, "Yeah, you told me that."
You got to come back and see us too, for sure.
That'll happen. Well, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate
it's been
it.
great, man.
It's been
Glad to have
fantastic.
you. I learned a lot here. You
learned you can't take your food truck to Burien right now.
I guess I'll stay on the corner and sling some hot dogs.
No, this has been great, man. It's been really refreshing conversation. I think you're a great guy. I wish the best for you. I think you got it.
Thank you.
Got it.
I apprate that.
You sound excited about it too, which is good.
That's a good thing. Yeah, you gotta like what you do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you
Gotta
just
like what you
you just can't. Yeah, I think. Rah rah rah.
Yeah, that's right.
For sure.
That is right.
Hamp, you got anything else for
No, let's go. Take us out of here.
Yeah, anything else before we
I
get-
appreciate
wrap
the
it up?
time. Thanks so much.
All right, man. We'll catch you after you win.
There
Thanks,
we go.
guys. Stick Lounge Podcast.
Joe and Hampton, lights dim, this game time. Interview sharp, cut through like a shank line. Stick lounge, stories unfold, real and raw. From hustlers to dreamers, breaking laws with a claw. Microphone warriors, capturing life's conflicts. Sitting across legends, tales flick like black picks. Drop bars, not mics, knowledge, it rains. From the streets to the beats in every vein. Stick lounge podcast, tales heavy with the weight. Real lives, gritty stories, never fake. Joe and